Hey, everybody. This is another Donner on Monologue podcast. I am your host, as usual, Beau. And before we go any further, we want to thank our sponsor again, Ashley Luann K on Instagram. Check her out through the links we have provided. It provides information on education, lifestyle, occupation of nursing. So if you have any questions about nursing, we strongly encourage you to check out her. The Instagram format is you'll be surprised how handy that is for gathering information. Today, I just want to talk a little bit about why I don't... We've talked a lot about my console picks for past generations of who I feel objectively won, which one was my favorite. But I think it's important to note that I love a lot of these. I love video games, so I typically own last generation I owned a 360 and a PS3 and a Wii and a Wii U, and this generation I own a Switch, an Xbox One, and a PlayStation 4, and they each and every one have cool things about them, and I think it's kind of silly when people still state, oh, this one totally won the console war. I think what people are saying is this is the one I chose to own, is what I think people are saying. Because, I mean, if we really wanted to, we could look at sales data and see which one sold more. I mean, that's a rather simple thing to do. But that's not really saying who objectively won. So, just today, I wanted to kind of reiterate why I feel... we'll use this generation. So, We'll start with the Xbox. What does the Xbox have going for it that I like? First, the Xbox has Game Pass, which I think is awesome, because if you do Game Pass Ultimate, you're already doing that for live, so now you've just got a library of free games to choose from. In fact, when my son got his Xbox One, we went and we set it up, and Game Pass was doing a $1 for your first month thing. And to be honest, when we were gifted it, it was at the end of our budget cycle, so I didn't feel like going out and buying a game. And we're not really into like the, Apex, and stuff like that. So we didn't really feel like doing one of the free games. But because of that night, I was playing Shantae, we were playing Halo, we were playing Minecraft, because it was just $1 and we got Game Pass. And Game Pass, guys, I think is just a really cool thing, because you actually download the game to your system. It's not a streaming service for games. And it's just really fun. It's not just first party Microsoft titles either. It's filled with other stuff like Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15 are on it right now. That's pretty cool. I think Final Fantasy 9 is too. That's pretty cool. And it has a couple of backwards compatibility games. That's another thing about Xbox One. Whatever you bought on the 360 store is still available for you to download on the Xbox One with almost no exception. That's really cool. Like, that's super cool, like, that they have that backwards compatibility, because, of course, PlayStation doesn't. So now moving along, what does PlayStation 4 have that Xbox doesn't? First off, a lot of really cool exclusives. I don't think either one has better exclusives. I'll say it. PS4 has more and better exclusives. But the Xbox One has amazing exclusives, so don't think I'm not saying that. But the exclusives on PlayStation 4, they're just really cool. They're typically more Japanese developers doing them. And, of course, Western developers are also... they did a few big ones like Horizon, God of War, stuff like that. But the PlayStation has... PlayStation, if a fighting game's going to be exclusive, it's probably going to be on PlayStation. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, a game that, if you watched my episode the other day or listened to it, absolutely in love with that game. I was playing it right before... Well, I was playing it, then I played JoJo right before I came over here to record all these. Not played JoJo, but watched it. But so of course, Street Fighter V is console exclusive to PlayStation 4. So they have the exclusives, and PlayStation also... the online feels better on PlayStation. Like, I like the community of players typically that they have online. Not to say that my Halo boys aren't awesome, but PlayStation has cooler people playing online typically. And now the easiest one. We'll describe the easiest one, in my opinion. And, of course, I should mention the argument between the controllers. 100% personal preference. You cannot objectively say why a PlayStation 4 controller is better or an Xbox One controller is better. I will go ahead and stick my neck out and say I prefer the Xbox One. I love that controller. But for a fighting game, I do like the PS4 controller because you have the directional pad, which makes my inputs a lot easier. I hate inputting on the left stick. I hate that. So let's move on to the easiest one to talk about. By far, the Switch. The Switch is the easiest one to argue for the exclusivity of because, for one, it's the only one you could do that. And everyone said that would be a gimmick, but everyone's using it. So some gimmick, right? I mean, if it works, how is it a gimmick? Everyone loves the get up and go feature on the Switch. Like, I love being able to take my Switch places. And Nintendo, for like 4 generations of console, has had the best first-party exclusives. I don't care what anyone says. If you're going to argue with me about that, go play Smash Brothers. Go play Mario Odyssey. Go play these incredible Breath of the. Actually, if you want to argue with me about that, argue with me about Breath of the Wild because I told Adam earlier we were talking about it, and I said Breath of the Wild is objectively the greatest game that Nintendo ever produced. Objectively speaking, I gave him until we got over here to tell me that I was wrong. It was about a 15-minute drive. And Adam, have you still thought of one? No, Breath of the Wild is an incredible game. It is. You know what, fella? It'll take your breath away. So, if you haven't played that, don't come at me with Nintendo's bad. If you've not played Breath of the Wild, it's incredible. As much as I was mad about Byleth getting into Smash, go play Three Houses, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Incredible. It's an incredible game. Don bought a Switch. Don doesn't buy video games, much less video game consoles. And he went and bought a Switch, and he's on it constantly. I see him online all the time. So the Switch, it's because it's the only unique one. The Xbox, when you're arguing Xbox One and PlayStation 4, you're arguing exclusives. That's all you're arguing, really. Because so many of the same games come out for both. The only thing at the end of the day you're really talking to each other about is exclusives. But the Switch is truly different in every way. And it's a good different, and it's a fun different. And so you know what? I wasn't going to... no, we'll go more in depth than that in another episode when we get to the 8th generation of not 8th, but whatever generation we're on. I'll remember by the time I get there. We'll go deeper into that. But for now, if you're the guy that sits there and argues about what's console's best in this current generation, and furthermore, if you've been one of the guys that's picked PlayStation 4 or Xbox One and is arguing with someone, you guys are wasting your breath because no one's ever going to see it because there's no actual way to sell it because they're too stinking similar. They just are because, again, if you want to talk about power, you want to talk about a PC. If you want to talk about a console, you want to talk about exclusives, and there's just not enough exclusives when so many of these other great games are being released on both. So that's my 2 cents on that. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Remember, please check out the May 31st episode of Donora, the Xenogears finale, 1,000 likes on the YouTube video, and or 1,000 downloads of the podcast from any one single repository, and I will, of course, proudly quit my job and play through Xenosaga in its entirety, episode 1, 2, and 3. And, of course, if we meet both those criteria, 1,000 likes on YouTube and 1,000 downloads of the podcast on any one single repository, I will do so in cosplay. 100% cosplay all the way through. So in every minute, every second of gameplay, me deciding how to spend money in a shop, you will be seeing that. So, guys, please like, share, and subscribe. Definitely share it. Subscribe, click the bell so that we will be able to inform you immediately when you're alive. And guys, as always, stay safe, and we hope to see you again tomorrow.